Other forms of life alienating communication. Communicating our desires as demands is yet another form of language that blocks compassion. A demand explicitly or implicitly threatens listeners with blame or punishment if they fail to comply. It is a common form of communication in our culture, especially among those who hold positions of authority. My children gave me some invaluable lessons about demands. Somehow I had got 10 into my head. As a parent, my job was to make demands. I learned, however, that I could make all the demands in the world but still couldn't make my children do anything. This is a humbling lesson in power for those of us who believe that because we are parent, teacher, or manager, our job is to change other people and make them behave. We can never make people do anything. Here were these youngsters letting me know that I couldn't make them do anything. All I could do was make them wish they had through punishment. Then eventually they taught me that any time I was foolish enough to make them wish they had complied by punishing them, they had ways of making me wish that I hadn't. We will examine this subject again when we learn to differentiate requests from demands, an important part of NVC. The concept that certain actions merit reward while others merit punishment is also associated with life alienating communication. This thinking is expressed by the word deserve, as in, he deserves to be punished for what he did. It assumes badness on the part of people who behave in certain ways, and it calls for punishment to make them repent and change their behavior. I believe it is in everyone's interest that people change not in order to avoid punishment, but because they see the change as benefiting themselves. Thinking based on who deserves what blocks compassionate communication. Life alienating communication has deep philosophical and political roots. Most of us grew up speaking a language that encourages us to label, compare, demand, and pronounce judgments rather than to be aware of what we are feeling and needing. I believe life alienating communication is rooted in views of human nature that have exerted their influence for several centuries. These views stress humans' innate evil and efficiency and need for education to control our inherently undesirable nature. Such education often leaves us questioning whether there is something wrong with whatever feelings and needs we may be experiencing. We learn early to cut ourselves off from what's going on within ourselves. Life alienating communication both stems from and supports hierarchical or domination societies where large populations are controlled by a small number of individuals to those individuals' own benefit. It would be in the interest of kings, tsars, nobles, and so forth that the masses be educated in a way that renders them slave-like in mentality. The language of wrongness, should and have to, is perfectly suited for this purpose. The more people are trained to think in terms of moralistic judgments that imply wrongness and badness, the more they are being trained to look outside themselves, to outside authorities, for the definition of what constitutes right, wrong, good, and bad. When we are in contact with our feelings and needs, we humans no longer make good slaves and underlings. Summary: it is our nature to enjoy giving and receiving compassionately. We have, however, learned many forms of life alienating communication that lead us to speak and behave in ways that injure others and ourselves. One form of life alienating communication is the use of moralistic judgments that imply wrongness or badness on the part of those who don't act in harmony with our values. Another is the use of comparisons, which can block compassion both for others and for ourselves. Life alienating communication also obscures our awareness that we are each responsible for our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Communicating our desires in the form of demands is yet another characteristic of language that blocks compassion.